Hey everybody, and welcome to episode 8 of Fix My Coaster Layout. Now, for those of you that are new to the channel, the Fix My Coaster Layout series is a collaborative effort between Brian Andrelczyk and I, where we take user-submitted coaster designs and each offer feedback on areas like flow, realism, and anything else requested by the user, basically. Brian Andrelczyk's basically a real-life theme park designer, and he tends to focus more on like the aesthetics and realism of the ride, where I kind of go for a combination of aesthetics, realism, and maybe a bit more on the scenario play side of things, so looking at kind of efficiency and throughput. But I do tend to try and make my coasters look as nice as I can as well. Anyway, in the last episode, we looked at Nicholas Argyros' wooden coaster in the scenario Dynamite Dunes, and here we're looking at what Brian did for his redesign. Now, Brian kept his redesign very much along the same lines as the original, and kept quite a few of the same features, like the big drop under the path here as part of the first drop, and also this kind of double up or double down moment. But he made some nice changes to the overall flow of the ride, particularly around the hill on this side over here. There was also some really nice use of the Egyptian theme set just around the station. So just the way that the little stones and pillars are kind of stacked on top of each other, they give a really nice little, kind of crumbling tunnel or fortress look to it. And I think that would be a really fun little bit of track to ride on, I think. So as is the case with most of Brian's work, he's put in a bit of a stepped brake run and a transfer track here, which is something he's obviously very knowledgeable of. So I think this was set up as kind of something along the lines of a CCI, I believe, kind of brake run and transfer track setup. So that was really nicely done. Overall, I think his redesign was a lot shorter than mine, but I think he did a much better job of kind of incorporating the design into the existing terrain than my layout. If you remember with my redesign, it was rather long, and I did have to perform quite a bit of surgery on the landscape to get it kind of looking completed and somewhat reasonable. Anyway, with that done, I think it's about time we got stuck into the next submission for this series. So today's submission comes to us from the user Risiko, who some of you may recognize from the DKMP contest entries, as well as potentially New Element. Now, they've put together some really amazing stuff over the last last few years, so it was super cool to see them send in a couple layouts for Brian and I to take a look at. Now, what we have here is a recreation of the Schwarzkopf Wildcat model. Now, after some investigating on RCDB, it turns out there's actually 3 variants of this model, and I think they're simply known as the 45, 54, and 65 meter variants, and I'm guessing that has to do with the kind of overall length, I guess. Now, they're all pretty similar, but have a few minor differences between them, just with like various sections of track not crossing over, and some, like one drop, for instance, going under a bit of track in one variant, but in another one it's going the opposite, where it's going over that same bit of track. This one, I believe, is intended to be a replica of the 54 meter layout. I'll leave a link in the description of an example of this model, which has the point of view video that I used quite a bit as kind of an aid to putting together some improvements, I thought, to the layout here. Now, for this layout, Risiko has stated that they're happy with the design, but something just doesn't quite feel right. They also wanted some help with the placement and style of transfer track, and also some custom supports, which honestly I'm probably going to leave with Brian, who has a much better understanding and knowledge of that sort of stuff than I do. So instead, I'm going to focus kind of more just on the layout itself and make some adjustments to Risiko's attempt to kind of try and make it look a little bit more similar to the real life model. So we'll see if I can do that. So just to get an idea of what's going on here, we'll just look at this red car here. So it's just kind of a bit of a pre-drop into the into a little turnaround, and then a large drop down to the ground, then another turnaround. There are some kind of lift hill parts here. It doesn't actually need that to get through the layout. I think they're just intended to represent either block sections or anti-rollback. But yeah, it went after that. It was just a little diagonal section, another turnaround, another drop down, then into a bit of a helix, which is just going through now, and then kind of a couple shallow drops, and into another helix, and then back into the station. So yeah, pretty fun little layout. I think it's intended to be more of a family style ride, but it does look a lot of fun actually. I think the biggest challenge that Risiko actually already noted with his email submission with this model is to somehow replicate the large diagonal section as part of the second drop here, just the one where the this pink car is going in now. Now the 45-degree diagonal section in RCT is just a little bit too much when trying to match reality. In real life, it's probably more of a, I don't know, a 20-degree heading, if you like, off the turnaround. So it's just one of those common things that you find trying to replicate real life designs in RCT. It almost always comes down to a game of compromises, but yeah, we'll see what we can come up with here. But I think the most important features to ensure are somewhat replicated here are the diagonal drop, kind of connecting this section to the piece of track that runs under the pre-drop turnaround, as well as the kind of stacked helixes. So there's one over here, one on the other side as well. Yeah, I think they're the kind of big things to keep in mind to get the layout as accurate as possible. But yeah, we'll see how we go, and yeah, let's get started. Okay, so we'll use the same base track type as Risiko used for his original crack at the recreation here, and we'll just build it just along the side here. Alright, so we'll get started by raising our station platform up one height unit, and then we'll just do a nice large turn out to the start of the lift hill. Now, if you watch the point of view video, you'll notice that it's not actually like a perfect parabola like this, but I think we'll just use this for now and might make some changes to it after. Let's add in our lift hill. Now we're actually only going to bring it to 24 meters, so I think the height is a little bit more representative of the real thing. Now, another change I'm going to kind of make here, relative to Risiko's, is implement the little climb back up before the turnaround here. Yeah, in the real design, there is a bit of a there is the first drop, like a slight drop here, but then it does go back up. It does mean that we're going to kind of be crawling a little bit through this section, but I think we can get around that, and I think I'd rather have the. I still think I'd rather have that. And we'll put in our little kind of anti-rollback or chain lift section. I think it's I think it's meant to be anti-rollback or a block brake section on the real design. And then we'll jump straight into our first drop. Now you notice here how I'm going to kind of use the shallow piece and then the steep at the start, just because for some reason with the mini coaster I think I just prefer the look rather than the gradual descent at the bottom. Not sure why, you might disagree on that, and that's fine, but I think we'll do that for now. Then we'll climb back up to 22.5. Now it's definitely going to struggle to make that. We'll put our ghost train to see if that does it, but I doubt it. And then we'll put in, we might have to use 2 flat pieces there, which is fine. Put another little anti-rollback, I think. Actually, probably makes more sense to put it at the top here. Okay. So now we're going to start that little diagonal section to get from over here to underneath the track, kind of on this right-hand side. Now, this bit might seem, I don't know, might not be everyone's cup of tea, but what I'm going to be doing is allowing arbitrary ride type changes and switching the track type over to the classic mini roller coaster. Now this is the same or the equivalent as the steel mini roller coaster in RCT1, and This, I think this piece of track gets overlooked a little bit, but I mean, this isn't the only type of track that has the steep to level and level to steep pieces, but it's one of the only ones. I think the vertical roller coaster is the other one, which has these pieces available on the diagonal. And we're actually going to take advantage of that here. Like such. Now, as I said before, the diagonal section here, it's not quite diagonal, it's more of like off 20 degrees maybe, and it is a nice smooth kind of drop straight up into the turnaround here. Unfortunately with RCT we're kind of limited. Now there's a couple options we could go for here, one of which is just kind of continuing on kind of straight like that, but I would actually like to get the kind of stack effect going. Actually we'll go straight into it like that. Switch the coaster type back to the mini roller coaster. Now there is a kind of noticeable drop down here, and it is kind of pretty... There is a noticeable bank as well, and that's what we'll kind of stick with here. Now on the way back up, the bank on the real design isn't as noticeable, but it doesn't look particularly good in my opinion when you've got like a banked piece there and then followed by an underbanked swoop back up. So I think one little compromise we'll do is just keep the bank going, and I think that looks a lot cleaner. And we've got a decent little kind of stacked effect there. It's not as nice as I think it'll be over on this side, but I think it's good enough for now. So then there's a bit of a steep drop kind of next to the chain hill, so we'll do that and climb back up. Might put another one of our little anti-rollbacks. And if everything's lined up correctly there, we should get a nice little stack here with the S-bend and the kind of diagonal, starter diagonal section there. And we can do a medium turn. And yeah, that gives us a nice stacking effect there. Now this pit here, we're going to get stuck into the helixes. So Risiko's used the two kind of half large helixes, and that looks pretty good. However, in the real design, there is a bit more, like, you find that I think in most coaster designs, like, helixes aren't almost never this kind of nice, even kind of gradual decline. There is a bit of unevenness to them, if that makes sense. So we're going to implement the kind of swoopy turn like that. Now we're going to have to take some liberties with the clearance checks here, just to get the layout as kind of accurate as possible. And we're going to do a large turn like that. And yeah, the real design does continue to kind of bank like this. We could do a large turn like that, but then that kind of ruins the stacking. It's kind of looks a little bit offset, so we'll just have another flat piece, or another level piece I should say. Okay, and then we've got a nice stack there, nice stack there. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So now we're kind of going to go on another little diagonal section, similar to this one here. It kind of goes across this way, and it kind of cuts under the that big drop. So we'll kind of keep that bank going, and then do something like this. Now, in the real design, that does kind of climb up but maybe a little bit higher than what I'm going to be able to do here. Since we're limited on the space out here, I think we're only going to be able to do kind of one height unit up, and then we'll have to go back down. But that's alright. And then we'll go straight back up like this. Put in another little anti-rollback section like that, and then we can start the kind of final helix, which I'm going to do in a similar sort of manner to this one here. So yeah, we'll do another level piece, another medium turn, and then kind of the tight diving turn. Now we are going to have to modify the land a little bit, but that's alright. Okay. So yeah, we'll have to do one more level piece, and then so I'm kind of doing this. I'm going to do this a little bit differently because we don't want to. It's going to look a little bit rough having kind of two shallow hill pieces going back up into the station. So what I'm going to do, instead of just two medium turns like that, I'm going to do a helix up, and that way we can. I think we'll need to do. Yeah, we'll need to do another level piece, and then we can do our wide turn, and then keep that bank going, and then level it off like that, and we can bring it back into the station. I might just do a little bit of a brake run here. I didn't pay too much attention to what the actual brake run looks like, but we'll just do this for now. Put in block brake there. Now we've actually got 5 block sections as it is, so maybe I could actually do another one here, just so we can have 5 cars or 5 trains going. Now, actually one other change I'm going to make here to get the kind of stacking going even further is, instead of just the large turn out like that, I'll break it up with a medium turn and 2 straight and level pieces. So I think that actually achieves 2 things. Well, it improves the stacking. We've got 4 pieces of track stacked nicely there, but it also it removes that kind of smooth parabola that I was talking about earlier. It does kind of make it a little bit more janky, but that kind of is true to the real design, from what I could tell anyway. Anyway, yeah, I think that's pretty much it in terms of the layout. Now what we'll do is do a little bit of testing. Okay, so we're first going to test the layout with the original vehicles, just so we can get an idea of what we might need to fix up later on. Okay, so we've ended up with 6 block sections, just with the little anti-rollback lift hill pieces scattered throughout the layout. We'll bump this up to, I think, yeah, 9 k's an hour. I'll just follow this one along and see how it goes. So it does crawl along there, which I'm not too upset about actually, because if you watch the point of view video on YouTube, you'll see that it really does crawl through there. Now, as expected, it didn't quite make that hill, and how we're going to get around this is using the Ride Vehicle Editor plugin, which is a really useful tool, and I haven't really used it a whole lot, but you can do some really, frankly, outrageous stuff with it. You can mix up vehicle types on your track and all kinds of things. But the thing we're going to use it here for is to adjust the mass of the vehicles. So by default, the mass is set to 700. I'm not sure what units they are, but 700 of whatever units. And I think in order to clear this track, we might need to bump it up to about 1400. So we'll double the mass, and that should help us clear the layout. Okay, see how this goes here. Alright, so yeah, it's still crawling up there, but again, I think that's pretty representative of what it actually does in reality. Now we'll just go ahead and adjust the mass of all the vehicles on the track. Okay, so the speed was pretty good throughout here. It's going to pick up a little bit towards the end here. So it might be a little bit fast just towards the end of the layout here, but I think overall I'm pretty content with how that performs. Yeah, it does kind of crawl up these top sections, but like I said, it kind of does that in reality. So although it can be kind of painful to watch in RCT, I think it's somewhat accurate there. Anyway, so the next step is to maybe add in a couple more anti-rollback sections, just so it's not the trains aren't waiting at the top of the lift hill. I'll put in some kind of dummy track to kind of make this section a little bit more tidy, and I think after that we might do some light decorating, nothing too substantial or fancy, just because the main intent of this Fix My Coaster Layout video was to look at the layout itself. But yeah, I'll do a little bit of decorating and we'll see how that turns out. But anyway, let's get started. Okay, so I think I'll call that one done. So I just did a bit of a cleanup of the track, added an exit and boarding station, moved it to continuous circuit mode so I didn't have to worry about block section timings. So I did have to disable vehicle limits, I had to use that cheat to get more cars on the track. But yeah, other than that, just put in a few simple trees, shrubs, fencing and pathing around the perimeter of the ride. Largely used inspiration from that point of view video I mentioned earlier. So yeah, overall pretty happy with the changes to the layout. You could argue from an RCT purist perspective that it's breaking a few rules with using different track types, like for the diagonal here, taking some liberties with the clearance checks, and of course adjusting the mass of the vehicles using the Ride Vehicle Editor plugin. But these are some features available in OpenRCT too, so I thought why not use them for a recreation like this. I think Risiko's design as it is pretty much the best you can do in terms of like a vanilla or no cheats layout, and you could argue that it looks a bit cleaner overall perhaps as well than my redesign. But anyway, thank you very much to Risiko for sending in this layout. Make sure to go over and check out Brian's redesign too. If you'd like to get involved in the series, you can send through a coaster layout, or any other ride for that matter, either in the track or park format, including the new .park format, to fixmycoasterlayout@gmail.com. Please include a couple background details on the ride, if there's anything in particular that you'd like us to take a look at, as well as your desired username. Thank you all very much for watching, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in the next video. Thank you very much, and cheers. Bye.